Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first inaugural Flight Medic Barry podcast. I'm yours truly, Flight Medic Barry, and this is my side piece with a capital S, Lily. Say hello, Lily.
Hey guys, how are you?
We are so grateful to have each and every one of you on this journey. We're going to talk about a number of things, and we hope you stay with us and join us on this adventure that we've got in the works. Okay, so we're going to talk about some really heavy hitting emotional topics, and we're really excited to really just open up, be vulnerable with you all, because we believe that the Flight Medic Barry just Flight Medic Barry as a whole, its purpose is to serve the community of first responders, but just in general by taking our experiences, the things we've been through, in order to maybe distill that down into something useful to give back to all of you out there to be able to help those who may be going through difficulty, obstacles, trials, tribulations. We want our experiences and things we've been through to act as a guide, a compass for each and every one of you out there. So we're going to talk about a number of things, such as who's Flight Medic Barry? Who is this guy right here? Who's this gal right next to me? And why does it even matter sticking with us and kind of hanging out and seeing where this all goes? And we're going to talk a little bit about where we're going, the future, the adventure along the way. And we're just excited to have each and every one of you. So without further ado, let's get into the first Flight Medic Barry podcast. So for me, Flight Medic Barry started my humble beginnings back in 2011 as an EMT, but it goes even back further than that as a lifeguard. And I've always been in some form of service towards others. That's been something that I've dedicated my entire life towards, with an occasional stint at the Pizza Hut, right? But other than that, I spent my entire life in some form of service towards others, and it just progressed from EMT, paramedic, critical care flight, with so many bumps in the road and turbulence along the way, everything trying to stop me, adversity trying to hit me, to prevent me to go into each season of life. And I think many of you out there can experience that. So really quickly, drop in the comments if you've experienced that in your life, where you are trying to obtain a goal and something is throwing everything it's got at you to stop you. What is that like? And how did you overcome it? Because this is what Flight Medic Barry is all about. How did you overcome it so we all can learn? Maybe there's something you did that we can learn from you. So that really catapulted me into what was to be Beyond the Sirens. But right before that was a huge impact point in my life where I lost a close friend. And many of you probably have had experience with loss in some way, shape, or form. This was a loss of a very, very close friend who literally is the soul of Beyond the Sirens and really everything that we do. And his name was Joel Bruce Snellgrove Jr. He died in a motor vehicle crash, ironically at 33 years old, which is I'm 33 as well, which will make more sense as we go through this journey on today's podcast. But after his passing, it was incredibly turbulent and struggled with so many different things as pertaining to just mental health. How do I reconcile losing somebody close to me, somebody who meant the world to me? We've been through so much together. And then now, how do you continue your life without this person here? So I know today is a very, big day in a solemn way, because this kind of is the anniversary, the 1 year anniversary of losing your grandfather. And, I know that, a lot of people would like to know, how do you distill down loss and grief, especially with somebody who is such a prolific figure in your life? And how do you kind of reconcile that and kind of make peace with it? And, even if you do it all.
So that's a really good question. The way that I have taken my grandfather's loss is that while there's not really a way to put back the pieces um, of what was left behind, it's the fact that I need to press forward and kind of pull strength from that, if that makes sense. I just keep thinking about a saying that my grandfather said to me all the time, and it was "proud of you, baby," because every time that I achieved something in life, I always heard that from him. And so I just think about that during a lot of life struggles and use that as a motivator for me.
And that's just those things, those words, those very influential sayings that sometimes it just kind of echo in your head are huge. Like Joel would always say something to me that just for some reason always came to mind. Was he'd always say something called "lean not on my own understanding," and that's a Bible verse, not fully, wrapped nice with a bow. I'm not a preacher, but basically, that was something that always stuck with me and allowed me to be able to essentially hold onto this kind of life raft in a weird way to that person, to kind of something that was a part of them and things that they said, a little quirk or thing about them. And so that was incredibly, helpful. Like something like that, proud of you, or, lean on my own understanding. It's something positive, an affirmation of some kind that just that person is associated with. And it's huge. It's huge. And I like drop in the comment section down below if you have something like that as well, and what was said to you, or what do you kind of hold on to as well, because it's those things that allow us to get through. I call them micro joys, basically things that essentially um allow us to get through the day to day when life is just coming at you in every which way, and to be honest, it feels like life's coming at us in every which way all the time. So with that being said, the persona of Flight Medic Barry came out of the loss of a great friend. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't know how to essentially process and how to take the pain I was feeling on the inside and turn it outside and to make it into something that was beautiful rather than something that felt ugly. And so Flight Medic Barry and the whole Beyond the Sirens experiment was born as a way of for me to heal. And it was actually for me. And then it ultimately became something that other first responders and just general people um, resonated with. And so we started as a mental health group. We just hung out with each other, and that grew to education, and we were education and advocacy. But and then that's kind of what we did, and then it blossomed into accreditations and courses and all that kind of thing, and then fusion with Miss Lily over here and her enterprise, and forming this kind of crazy fusion of Beyond the Sirens and what was kind of your venture?
I know for me, I started my own business called Integrity Medical Training a while back, surprisingly out of the same, at least similar situation where there was a lot of hurt, a lot of difficult situations that were happening back then. And I decided to take that as a motivator and turn that into a business, um, actually doing the very thing that was happening to me. And what I mean by that is I was noticing a lot of lack of integrity in the medical field, and I decided to turn that into a business called Integrity Medical Training, trying to infuse it back into the medical field, one student at a time. So I think I can relate a little bit on that as well.
So, with that being said, we've, as you can tell, this has come out of a lot of pain, hurt, anguish, disappointment, loss, and the list goes on of what seems like negative. And so, I guess that's a good touch point for right here. Is just because it's negative doesn't mean something beautiful or awesome or amazing can't come out of something that is bad. And that is really cool because the story of Lily and the story of Flight Medic Barry are, while so different and have so much contrast, still have so many parallels that have led into a collision course to one another. And so it's been a wild ride to say the least. There's so much more, believe it or not, of craziness, but it would take up a saga of many, many episodes. And so that's why you're going to like, subscribe, and follow so you can listen to more because it's crazy. All right. It's craziness. And it's basically the Kardashians, but not, but kind of, sort of. And so you want to follow because it's like a reality show. You'll love it.
It's more so like the Kardashians on steroids.
Plus Jerry Springer, Maury, and Judge Judy.
Yes.
Right? So we are a circus, but it's great. It's because of the circus, it's never a dull moment, for one. You have so many sleepless nights. Those are great. And at the end of the day, it just challenges you to be a better person. It makes you stronger, and your growth is so much more exponential than just kind of, not having all of these challenges. And this kind of steers us into the next segment. Speaking of challenges, the challenge that changed beyond the sirens and why we're really here to begin with changed everything. Only a few months ago, September 18th, I got the fateful diagnosis that most people dread to hear the words cancer. Capital C cancer, right? Huge, you know, pain point for me because cancer has been afflicting my family for as long as I can remember. And for, as far as I know, it's always been fatal. So as soon as I heard the words cancer, I knew, or at least was like thinking of all the things, right? So, but before we kind of get into all the feelings and the emotions associated, it's kind of like, how did that all happen? How did we get, how did that all connect? And so, we dive into that with this, premise of like, we've been going with Beyond the Sirens. We just relocated from Florida to North Carolina. And so big move, big transition, a lot of moving parts, especially with kids in play, changed a lot of things for us for the positive, but at the same time for the negative, because it caused us to restart, and restarting any kind of business venture and stuff is very, very difficult. So, I mean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that was really difficult because we were already established in Florida, and then having to pretty much pick everything up and try to get it established up here was a whole beast in itself.
Yeah, it was, I mean, gosh. I mean, if you've ever jammed 3 kids in a Toyota Camry, good luck, may peace be upon you, because it is. And driving over 12 plus hours and doing that multiple times, you will show what you're made of. I'll tell you that right there. And you'll show if you love that person, because after doing it a couple times, you'll be like, I don't know if I really, that's, I think, the best test to figuring out if you like somebody enough. Go on an extremely long road trip with them. And if you guys make it to the location alive and still liking each other, maybe you found the right one.
And if you do it with kids, that's even better.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
Maybe even steal your nieces or nephews. I don't know. But that's the real test.
It was a challenge amongst challenges, and within challenges, it was definitely something that put our definitely the parental abilities to the maximum test. But that led us to present day, right? So I took a job being a critical care paramedic, and doing that, and things were, well, I can't even say it was good. It was crazy, all right? It was bananas with many, many ends. And so with that being said, it just was a lot and a crazy adjustment and transition, but things were not right. I noticed things were just off with me, and Lily can obviously touch on so many of those things from a caregiver's perspective, because she was seeing things I wasn't even noticing, or noticing little shifts in me that I didn't notice, or maybe chalked up as not even that big of a deal. And ultimately, it was a huge deal, because it was the echoes, the tremors, the shock waves telling me and everybody around me something is not right. And what did you notice first?
I think what I noticed was that you were having more seizures than normal. And I don't know if you want to touch on that at all.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with but wait, there's more, right? I had an autoimmune condition that I had been dealing with for several years, called autoimmune encephalopathy. So all my autoimmune encephalitis, family out there, we see you as well. And I battled that from 100% disability, no car, no driving, no nothing. Just had gotten into paramedicine and brought myself back out of the depths of that to become a flight paramedic at the end of all of that, only to be now facing at the very edge and fringe of cancer. So it's autoimmune condition, crazy life in between, rising above it all, only to have it come crashing down again. So like I told you all, it is exactly as crazy, if not more. Add 10 to whatever I say is crazy, because it is bananas, and you'll hear me say that a lot. But I was having a lot of these seizures that were not normal, and normally I didn't have those things. And I started actually having them last year and I didn't know why. It didn't make sense. Nothing was adding up, and then I just chalked it up, because me being stubborn and not you know, first responder, stubborn guy, right? We don't necessarily always take inventory on, hey, this is something I need to deal with. And it just progressed and progressed, and they became more like several in a month or more.
Yeah, I mean, you were having them every other day, I would say, at one point, and it definitely got concerning.
Yeah, I mean, like play that out. Like what do they look like from your perspective? Like how like give an example.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so in the beginning of our relationship, I actually didn't see any seizures at all from you, and you were doing really good. And it wasn't until I would say a couple months in where I started noticing some things. I want to say what it was late January, February. Um, Things started getting a little bit interesting where he was having more seizures, and I think just in general, like you just weren't feeling well. And then it turned into waking up in the morning with headaches. Uh, from what I remember, you had some back pain as well
Hmm.
in the February, March area. And then you were having more of like a body ache kind of feeling.
Yeah, no, it was all of those things. Waking up with crushing headache, like just stumbling out of the room to just find some ibuprofen to just kind of ease what was going on. And I just kind of chalked it up as maybe it's autoimmune. I just ignored it and I just shelved it because stemming into just I have a very prideful nature where just don't like to admit there's something wrong. I don't want somebody to see me in a negative way. Any of you first responders out there, pretty sure there's a lot of you who struggle with that, who struggle with this idea that it's okay to not be okay, right? That's so cliche at times. We say it's okay to not be okay, but it is truly okay to not be okay because when you sit in, we are so good at putting on that poker face. We are so good at putting on that mask to a point we mask to others. And even sometimes we confuse ourselves. We put the mask on and we can't even recognize what's going on within ourselves because we poker faced ourselves. That's crazy thought. But for me, I just was able to explain it away, diminish it, minimize it because I had other things to take care of, other people that needed me, other situations that needed me. And we always, as first responders, put ourselves last.
Yes. And I want to add to that because I know for you, you're very big on being man of the house and providing. And so that's where the stubbornness kicked in times like five. Because while you were going through all of that and all of the struggles, you were masking it even more because you wanted to make sure that you could provide for us. And I think that you let your health go to a point where it's like, okay, there's no denying that something's wrong, and we really needed to get you checked out. But also the fear of what happened with the autoimmune encephalitis, with all the doctors that pretty much acted like whether it was not a real thing or acted like it was something else. I mean, even from firsthand experience, seeing um, a doctor from a one of the apparently it's supposed to be a one of the best
Well, yeah,
hospitals.
we're going to segue right into that.
Yeah.
So, no, like this is where she shines, ladies and gentlemen. She went toe to toe, toe to toe.
I'm really proud of that, by the
Yeah,
way.
she's proud of herself for going toe to toe, hold my weave kind of thing, right? No, but really, this kind of stems us into, well, how did we figure out how did I figure out I have cancer, right? Well, that was a process in itself that led to ER visits, to like devaluing and diminishing obviously abnormal labs. As a paramedic, flight paramedic who knows how to read the basic labs and all that stuff, like everything was screaming like something's wrong. And then something was wrong again and even worse. And we were trending, right? We're trending these and seeing it's only getting worse.
Yeah.
And wheezing, which I've never had, and all of the things, and something was obviously wrong. And I kept getting told, well, at least the numbers aren't this high. And then when they finally crossed that threshold, they would say, well, at least they're not this high. It was like a moving goalpost, always
Yeah.
trying to meet their metric that they kept changing on us.
So I think maybe this is a good time to also insert a little bit of my background to a degree. So just to kind of lay it out there, I am an EMT. I'm a medical assistant and phlebotomist. I've been in the healthcare field for gosh, like 5 years now. And so I do have some knowledge. I'm no doctor or anything, or I'm not a paramedic or anything like that, but I'm able to recognize when something is wrong and be able to advocate the best I know how to. And so with everything that was going on with Tyler, I will definitely die on this hill of, I went toe to toe with the doctor
Well,
and his minions.
and so we went to arguably, at least in a lot of circles in our area, as one of the best hospitals in the country. Who knows really where they stack up. Not really the best experience at all. I mean, so many other things we can dive into, such as a Michelin Man story and other things like that. But we'll save those for another time because I don't want to, overdo it in this one.
But make sure to stay tuned for that because it's definitely entertaining.
Oh yeah, it's one of the core memories of this whole season that we're in now, and so you want to stay tuned for the Michelin Man story, right? There's so many of these stories just like this, and that's why you want to stay with Flight Medic Barry so we can tell you just how crazy this whole thing is. You don't believe me? I will wager so much that we are as crazy as you. Well, we are as crazy as we say we are. Okay, and it's crazy in not a bad way, but it's just like everything keeps happening.
It's a Job situation. If
Yeah.
you've ever read the story about Job in the Bible, it is literally that to a T.
So if for those of you who aren't necessarily the most spiritual bunch, Job, in summation, in just a brief paraphrase, was put to the test in the most unbelievable way. Every bad thing that you could possibly be thrown at him by the enemy, Satan, the devil, and essentially taking everything he had, everything he loved, everything he cherished away from him, only for him to stay true and faithful and say, I'm not going to give any ground. You can take what you want, take everything from me, but I'm not going to give up. And that is something that you should hold to yourself as well. It doesn't matter necessarily how spiritual you are. That story resonates for so many of you out there who are going through, probably arguably, maybe even worse than us. Who knows if you're on the other side of this camera right now, going through life's just unfairness, and know that staying just planted and around your support system, not giving up, pressing and leaning in, never giving up, is going to, be where all of that, the grass, greener thing, where you're, how do I say this?
The best way to describe it is if you stay faithful and keep on pressing forward, God's going to give you more than you even asked for and better than what you had that was taken away. So,
and that's been in very illuminated and very on display in our life. Even despite all the craziness that has happened, we have seen these little micro mini, I can't even say mini because they were huge, that just when, financial and so many different things, personal, relational, everything is crumbling down around you. And yet somehow there's a pathway that you didn't see that gets you to the other side and keeps going
every single time.
And it's another podcast for another day, because there's so much content for you guys to get involved in. And we're so excited to be able to tell our story and all the little crazy things that happened and is continuing to happen, because I don't think we're done with this stuff. But really kind of pressing on, get admitted to the hospital 4 days at this prestigious hospital, and no answer day after day after day, ultimately seeing all the different specialties, neuro, oncology, hematology, all of those, only to find out that at least you don't have cancer. That was the big thing. We ruled out all the scary stuff, right? And you can at least leave with some peace of mind. Well,
it's laughable, to be honest.
It's so, I mean, any of you out there ever had a situation where you were minimized, invalidated, you were saying that something was wrong, and you just were, explained away over and over again? Put down in the comments, down in the comments, so other people can see that they're not alone, right? That is the biggest thing. We're not alone in all of this, and it's a community that we're trying to build. So many people can learn from your story as well. But I'm hesitant whether or not to go into the toe-to-toe situation. However, briefly summarize this knockout, drag out with the doctor in mid morning.
So, I I won't go into the Michelin woman situation, and
No, that's
hopefully we
yeah.
can have her at least whether
Hey,
comment
Michelin
or
lady, you know who you are. You know me. You were there. We all know who you
oh,
are.
it would be so
But
great.
we would love to have you. Like, this is a, I mean, like, we're going to straight up have to send this to you. We want to talk to you
We might be
because
besties after.
that what
She was awesome. She was a trooper.
she got treated so bad. It wasn't even funny. And I feel so bad for her. She was,
I mean, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we both thought that she was like a new nurse and being like initiated
like
in.
a hazing kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna show this new nurse, and she's like, "No, I've been here for like ever." That would be so messed up.
Yeah, it was
So
bad.
again, we got the Michelin Man story later on down the road, so we don't want to, overdo with scare you away with our crazy. But if you're the Michelin woman out there that happened to take care of me,
Reach out to us,
please
please.
DM us. We want to talk to you so that we can. we need to hash this out, right?
Yes.
So, but nonetheless, doctors after doctors after doctors telling us nothing, 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 nothing. Labs getting worse at the same time. Labs rising substantially in only 8 hours, and me feeling worse. Her feeling more like lost and confused.
So to add to that, actually, when it came to the doctors, though, I think that it wasn't really that they couldn't. I don't know how to describe it, but it's not like they just couldn't figure it out. It's yes, that part, but they were also almost giving a diagnosis just because.
Yeah, so they were
Um,
just kind of like throwing out, well, they were just throwing letters on a paper that really you can almost tell they didn't really subscribe to. They were like, well, we got to say something, so this is kind of like what it is.
it was almost like just enough of a diagnosis where if you left, you wouldn't die.
Yeah, so they
Just
can
to make sure there was something on
so
there
they can justify discharging you,
without
even
any
though
proper
yeah,
treatment.
even though they were sitting there teetering whether it was comfortable to discharge me or not. And then weirdly enough, I had seen a oncologist right before I went admitted to this hospital, only to find out a number of weeks later, on Leukemia Awareness Months of all the months, um, I have leukemia. The irony of that all,
It was
but
the same week that you got discharged from the hospital that you found out that you had cancer.
so that was very hard to hear the words, "You don't have cancer, at least you don't have that." And then it was like spoken into existence and you have that. And it was like,
Mhm.
and so, the current diagnosis as stands is a mouthful, but it's Philadelphia chromosome positive chronic myeloid leukemia, which good and bad, right? It's a double-edged sword. It's cancer, so that's the bad part. But the good part relatively is that it has a lot of treatments and a lot of opportunities to have some relief and ultimately potentially some control of this condition. But the other aspect of the coin is it's forever. And it's a leukemia that you never get rid of, and it can progress into, if not treated or cared for, into what's called acute myeloid leukemia and a blast crisis. So that's a whole issue in itself, and something that's always on the forefront of our minds and things that cause the anxiety and stuff. And this kind of circles it all back. If you remember in the beginning, I said that 33, the three, would have some relation to now. 33 was the diagnosis that I got of cancer, and 33 was the also the age of when Joel passed away. So that really just caused a lot for me because it was like, okay, what does this mean? And so obviously we can probably assume what somebody would feel like if they have cancer, but most people don't necessarily ask. And we'll do a whole breakdown podcast about caregivers and what it's like for a caregiver to experience this full force. Because one thing I don't think seldomly gets talked about, there's so many caregivers, parents of kids with significant conditions that are their autism, congenital defects that never get recognition, and they're suffering depression, anxiety, and all of these different things, and they just get forgotten about. Seldomly, one thing that I can think you don't get that you kind of noticed was you rarely get asked how are you doing.
Actually, I think that that's what bothered me the most initially is I didn't know how to feel because it's like, wow, you're over here in the hospital at the time going through everything that you were going through and trying to help. And then hearing the diagnosis of cancer, it's almost like I felt guilty for even feeling like I wanted to have someone reach out and just ask if I'm okay because I really wasn't. Um, because, I'm trying to process this and the kids and everything. And so that was definitely very difficult. And so, um, and I don't know if you still want me to go into it, kind of
Well,
like a
yeah.
brief
So,
overview of the doctors and stuff, because I think that kind of fueled how I felt as well. Because it
mm,
just
no,
the biggest thing is just helplessness. Like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help, and I was giving every bit of energy that I had to be there.
no, that's something that really stuck out. Is it's like, you know, something that has to be highlighted is I felt bad for even feeling like somebody should ask how I am feeling because, well, of course, my in the hierarchy or order of operations here, the person suffering, right, gets the trophy, right, gets to wave the victory flag. I mean, which is so silly to even say it in that way, but it's like that because of all of that, the caregiver is kind of drowned out by the shadow
Mhm.
of the person experiencing that issue. And that was something that was kind of painful for me to hear. Not because of like I felt selfish, because I was like, that is very true. That is a very true observation, that and something that you take a step back and you're looking and you're like, they never even asked how she was doing. How are you doing? How are you holding up? Do you need support? It's me, 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 me. Well, yeah, if you're selfish and stuff, you're like, oh, bring it, give me all the attention. But then this person is being starved of like the one who's pouring into you, the one who is spending sleepless nights, the one who's stressing out, the one who's emotionally drained, getting drained, and having to care for you on your bad days and having to shoulder the brunt of your energy that you would have been providing, and nobody is pouring in, or very little is pouring into her.
And I wanted to add too. I want to just kind of put it out there that I think that wanting to have someone ask if you're okay is definitely a normal thing to feel, especially going through that. You're not selfish for wanting to also feel recognized and all of that. And not like, oh, look at me, like I'm doing all this. It's just like, just seeing you in the struggles that are going on because, like Tyler said, um, I was having a hard time sleeping. I was sleeping on it was like a rock hard chair beside him. And, I didn't get a shower for a couple days. Like there was a lot of things that were happening. And so, um, when you're giving your energy and all of that emotional support to this person, it drains you. And so, absolutely, it's a normal feeling to at least want someone to say, hey, are you okay?
So, with that being said, Um, you know, we spent a lot of time talking today, but really out of the ashes of all of this is a new mission, right? Is a new way forward, a new path to pave in this saga that is Flight Medic Barry, and the whole, this whole adventure that we're on. And this brings Flight Medic Barry 2.0. What are we doing with this? Like, okay, you heard up where we were, how we got here, but where are we going? Like, where are we going? And I think that we've established three main principles, and that is to educate, to inspire, and to connect. And everything that we do is centered around those three principles. That are we connecting people together, and establishing connections through humor, through entertainment, through joyous moments, sometimes even not so joyous, to show you the human aspect of this whole thing, to show you the authenticity, the genuineness, that this is real. This isn't over fabricated, over dramatized. This is literally, if it looks like it's cinematic, it's literally just our life. It's not anything extra. Like, we are extra by default. We're originally we just Flight Medic Berry just shared medical content, and so now we're doing not just that anymore, but we're discussing things that are important about first responders, and really can just be distilled into all the different groups out there. People suffering chronic illness, people feeling invalidated, feeling lost, feeling confused, feeling all sorts of different things, are not something that only first responders deal with. It's just something that they inherently deal with a lot more in a higher percentage. But this is for everybody. This could benefit anybody, regardless of what occupation you have. And there's so much to really address and to talk about as it pertains to first responder advocacy, when it comes to burnout, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to pay and the way that they're recognized and treated and turnover. And it's just, the list goes on. However, there's so many things from our experiences that we've had in our lives that we feel we can pour back out to each and every one of you out there in order to be able to feel like you're not alone in all this, that there is a pathway forward, because we're living it. We haven't solved the whole equation. We're still in the process. We're always forever in the process, but we're trying to take the lead here. And so why is Lily part of this mission? Why are you what because I know some of you out there who are OG Flight Medic Berry fans, and you know who you are. I know who you are. I know you all by name because you are all just always there, always dedicated. And then now you see this side piece here, capital S, and
Specifically a side piece.
specifically side piece, right? And you see this new person, new face, new family, right? That's kind of just popped on the scene. And so why is Lily part of this mission? Like, why do you believe in it so much?
Question. I believe in Flight Medic Berry because I've lived a similar situation, not exactly what he's going through, but in different ways. And I know for myself that it's hard to talk about these things. I mean, I know as someone who's worked in the healthcare field, and even outside of it, it's just you're stubborn. You want to just care for people, and sometimes lose yourself in the process. And I think the biggest thing with this new venture is that where we're coming from, the emotions, the topics, and everything is coming from the standpoint of a lot of people in the healthcare field, the EMS world. If you're a firefighter, a police officer, a nurse, I mean, anybody. I think that we all experience very similar emotions because we want so badly to help care for others that we lose ourselves in the process, like I said. And so being on the other side of that with health issues, and I can speak for myself as well, it's very hard to accept the help and the support and also be vulnerable enough to talk about these things because you've been strong for so long helping others that you don't know how to let that guard down and kind of humble yourself and allow others to pour into you at that point. Because it's almost a sign of weakness, and that's hard for us.
I'm sure a lot of you first responders out there can recognize that statement right there, right? Emotion equals sign of weakness, expressing that you're not okay. All the things you always heard, right? If you express your emotions, you say you don't feel that you're not okay, you're experiencing something wrong, suddenly you're not equipped for the job and you're not cut out for it. It used to be the old school way of thinking. The most amount of trauma you could feel without expressing any emotion somehow made you tough. And in fact, I can tell you from my experience of being in this field for over 13 years, those individuals were the ones who suffered the most. And ultimately, a lot of them paid the ultimate sacrifice and ultimately lost their mental health struggle because they were silent, because they believed in that old philosophy. And that old philosophy is getting people to lose their lives. And we have to stop this. We have to stop this and knock this nonsense off because we're losing too many friends and too many brothers and sisters out there with mental health struggles in general, but in the first responder community. And so that is our goal. And one of our biggest, things that we champion is mental health and advocacy for that. Because, I mean, we don't do a good job of teaching that in school. We don't do a good job of educating those that you can do everything right for somebody and still not be, somebody still may not make it. And then you now have to deal with this fact. Well, in school, you always saved them at the end. You always saved them. You always were the hero at the end of the story. And then now you go out into the real world, and the real world doesn't play the same rules. And now you're struggling. So with that being said, bringing this bad boy to a close, what does this podcast give you? By tuning into Flight Medic Berry, liking, subscribing, and following this crazy nonsense. And we wanted to thank you again for taking part in this very first podcast. Bear with us on some of the technical stuff. Bear with us on some of the things. And the sneezes. Bear with us for the sneezes. Right? No, but thank you for all tuning in for this insanely long podcast. we wanted to get the story out there. We wanted to get this all out in the open of the Flight Medic Barry 2.0, and what this stands for, because it's more of a movement. It's more than just me. Yeah, sure, I'm a face, but at the end of the day, my goal is to make this an idea that infects every single one of you out there, because I'm under the belief you can't kill an idea once it's infecting everybody and they're in the same camp. I could go away and then my legacy continues, and what I have left behind is a fingerprint of something good, just like Joel did. Um, so Lily, side piece, tell the viewers and those who are going to be tuning into the Flight Medic Barry journey in this, movement, what we're going to bring to them.
We're going to bring a lot. I mean, I don't know really how to put it any better, but we will be talking about so many things. And I think the best part is some of you nosy people out there like to kind of get an inside look at people's lives. And I think that there's a lot of things that people can relate to, from whether it's just Flight Medic Barry or myself, maybe in the future. But there's
maybe a Mrs. Barry spin-off, side quest, maybe some side quests.
I like side quests.
Right. Maybe it's play just the video games and only do the side quests, nothing other than side quests, right? Side quest queen over here.
I love the storyline.
Yeah. Right. But if you're listening right now and you're going through something, you are enduring a battle, you are enduring turbulence in the aviation world, and when we fly, we call it IFR conditions, or when you can't see out the windows in front of you, but you still have to know that there's things out there, mountains, terrain, and things that can get you. When you're going through your own storm, your own obstacles, this is the place to be, right? We have been through so much individually and then as a group, that hopefully you can learn from what we've endured and what we've had to sacrifice in order to get here. And we're not even done, which is crazy, because once you start getting into all that we've had to go through to get to this point, you would be like, oh, okay, maybe you're like, my life ain't so bad, or maybe you're like, they got it easy. Who knows? But if you're going through your own season, know that we want to be a beacon, a place for a lighthouse. The original logo Beyond the Sirens was a lighthouse, and that is so that those first responders who are lost, those who are in general lost, just not even have to be a first responder. We wanted to be a beacon so you can find your way home. You're our community, and we want to build a community with you. You're a reminder that the grounded doesn't mean done, right? Being grounded doesn't mean done. Just because you're on, I like to say, when you're flying, right? But when you're grounded and you can't fly, that doesn't mean it's over, that your storyline is over. Really, it just in fact means a new season has begun, and this is only the beginning. So, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, best thing I could say right now is just get ready. Maybe get some tissues. There's a lot of things that we're going to talk about.
A lot of boo-hooing.
Specifically for me.
Who knows? Maybe Flight Medic Barry's got a tier or two to share. But again, thank you everybody for, if you've managed to get to the very end, put in the comment section that you made it to the end. We want to kind of shout you all out. If you made it this entire way through all of the craziness, we wanted to say thank you. And stay.
And before we go, we promise that we will go into a lot of depth when it comes to the Michelin Woman.
And toe-to-toe, right?
And toe-to-toe.
There's so many more in-depth conversations, right? What you're going to get out of this is in-depth conversations, interviews, collaborations, discussions, entertainment, all of it in one place here. So as we progress and we grow, you will grow with us as this community of Flight Medic Barry. We are so grateful to have you along for the ride and aboard this flight deck of Flight Medic Barry. We will see you all in the next episode of the podcast coming soon. See y'all later.